Welcome everyone. How's everybody doing today? Good to have you here. Good to have you, Thiago, Zen, Gabi, animation channel. If you're joining me actually on YouTube, appreciate you hopping over to behance.net/live. That's the chat I'm going to keep an eye on. But this morning is going to be really fun. Basically, we have a very cool event basically talking about UX and UI design. This is all about getting started in Adobe XD. So that's the plan. Axel, good to have you here. Benjamin, Mitch, good morning, everyone. Yes, happy to have you here. So we're going to get this party started. Again, my name is Paul Trani. Kind of want to talk about like why I'm doing this getting started, and essentially what we have going on is a fun event, basically live stream for 3 days on behance.net/live. So you can see it right here. So essentially, this is what we have going on this week on behance.net/live, Adobe Live, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We have these fascinating people. So Martha Bergman's a UX UI designer, and actually I can even kind of show you the schedule in a second, but essentially you can go there to the schedule section of the site and see the exact times. Christine Lee is then joining us with Talon Wadsworth, who's a sort of senior designer or design lead on Adobe XD. Then Rovain Durso will be hanging out with him from 1 to 3 p.m. 3 to 5, Selena Wu. So these are all UX, UI designers working for various really awesome companies that are, working designers that are kind of doing maybe what you want to do is kind of the idea. Or maybe you want to get into it some more. So hello from Argentina. Good to have you here. Awesome. I'm broadcasting from beautiful Denver, Colorado. Cheers. Cheers, folks. My invisible cup happens to be green. Yeah, it's a little early for pizza, but Patrice, I know what you're saying. Had some fun April Fool's things happening this week, so that's what was going on. Diving into this now, let me just kind of share this for a second. Right over here too. What I'm going to be covering. So again, this is all about getting started in Adobe XD. That's what we're going to be learning today. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to talk about. We actually have released new features as well in Adobe XD. I always need coffee. I don't know if you're kidding, Amber. Do I look sleepy? Oh, thanks. I got a full night's sleep. I actually am a little sleepy. Long weekend with Easter and all sorts of things. But it's going to be a fun morning for the next hour. We're going to talk about sort of creating and importing into Adobe XD. So this is really your master class, your 0 to 60 in Adobe XD. So if you follow along for the full hour, you're going to know everything you need to know about Adobe XD. Everything from creating and importing, so sort of drawing shapes, creating what you need to in Adobe XD, what you can import into it. So there's some new things there, which is importing PSD files and sketch files. And I'll show you how that works because it's so easy. No reason for me to be sleepy because Narendra, it's 9:30 p.m. in India, so why am I tired, right? So hats off to you. Thank you for joining me. We're going to get into sort of like designing for screens, so, sort of adding multiple artboards, reusing assets, using the assets panel. So if you can imagine symbols, changing colors globally, it's really cool. Not only that, we have a repeat grid, which as soon as you show it in XD, everybody wants it in Photoshop and Illustrator and everywhere else. So that's going to be really fun, adding some fundamental effects and then prototyping and sharing. So basically everything. That's what we're going to do. And again, I'm so thankful that you're joining me and just really appreciate everyone. Maybe I look a little sleepy. Let's get this party started, huh? I'm going to be sharing my screen and I'm going to just kind of show you essentially kind of roughly what we're going to create. If you give me 1 second, I'm actually going to open up the final file and I can give all of these to you as well. Okay, so I'm just sharing my screen now. This is what potentially the final project will look like. Okay, so you can actually have this, everything from right over here, from creating assets on this first screen creating repeat grids, diving into multiple screens with these fun effects. Look at these fun effects, by the way. Look at this. Hey, can you do that, Photoshop? Why am I so mean? Photoshop can't, and I love Photoshop, and I work for Adobe, so why am I picking on Photoshop? But this is really cool. Having a blur effect, being able to move that around, and it blurs out the picture behind it is what's happening there. So we'll dive into that. We'll get into sharing, and then also creating some design specs for your developers. But you can see here's the prototype that we could click through, and you can see all that gloriousness. Does that sound good, everyone? Mario's in the house. All right, Mario, let's do this, huh? Let's do this dance. In fact, you know what? It's cheating. It's cheating to start with all of that. I'm going to start literally from launching Adobe XD. So if you don't have Adobe XD and you're Creative Cloud members, you can see it right over here. Oh, guess what? XD. And they've been adding to it on a regular basis. So every month there's something new. But I'm going to start with a 6, 7, and 8 layout. And I will just check the chat periodically. So that's the plan. Here we are in Adobe XD. I can see as I select this file right here. Let's change this track. All right. Selecting this artboard. So this is my untitled document. This is my artboard that says iPhone 6, 7, 8. You get it, right? Let's change the name of this to Splash. It's like naming your layers, naming artboards. All right. Whatever is selected, okay? Whatever is selected, I can then rename or change the properties for it over here on the right-hand side in the Properties panel or Properties Inspector, or sometimes you'll hear it called PI. But in general, this is where I can kind of jump in and, you know, let's change this color to maybe something nice, a nice pleasing blue, my favorite color. And good to have you here, Thomas Benner, in the house. Good to see you, my friend. And then right up here, so again, this is kind of a little drop down. First of all, there's a couple different little drop downs. I've kind of reorganized this a little bit. Right here, you can change this hex, RGB, HSB. You can change to those different color modes if you want to. And right up here, you can go from solid color to linear gradient. And then we also added radial gradient. Cheers. Copy it. Copy and yes. Oh man, you're good. I just read that comment, Simon about just copying and pasting. You can copy and paste. But here's my gradient. You don't have to necessarily like add color stops over here on this side. What you could do is like literally manipulate right on the graphic and then adjust that color stop right here. I find that a little easier and it just seems much more intuitive, but work however you want. Okay, all right, folks. Sweet. Yes, I will even launch, since there's some questions about Illustrator, I'm going to launch Illustrator, but I'm going to move into this a little closer. Essentially, drawing in Adobe XD, we can see our tools on the left-hand side. They're all really straightforward, right? You're smart enough, Thomas and Sadia, everyone. You get how the ellipse tool works, you know, and the rectangle tool, right? You can hit R, selecting that, or you can even hit E for ellipse, right? And we can make this ellipse or this circle. I'm going to draw out this circle. I'm going to hold down the Alt key. If I hold down the Alt key, it's going to draw from the center, just like Illustrator. If I hold down the Shift key, it's going to constrain its proportions. So I can go ahead and do something like that. Okay, this is a little bit more advanced shape because look, it has a border now. So it has different borders that you can actually, you know, have inset, inner, outer, or centered. I'm going to turn that off altogether. But the cool thing is, let me just turn this music down, is editing this as well. So again, I can move this around. I can center it, right? And we will typically get guides that will pop up. But what I want to do is I want to make this look like a map icon. And this goes for anything that you draw. You can double click on it and then you get access to those Bezier points. And let me go ahead and change the color of the background because I feel like it's like hard to see. So let me just do that really fast. There we go. Let's make this a little darker because I want you to really be able to see all of these different points. As you double click, I can access those points. And guess what? I can move those around all I want, okay? You're probably wondering, like, how do you add points? Well, you just click. So there's no need to have an add anchor point tool, a remove anchor point tool, or even your, your anchor point tool. Like, you don't need those three because they're all baked into one. So if I click, there it is. Oh, thank you very much. Right? Super easy. I want to get rid of it. I could just hit delete since it's selected, right? So that's how you work in XD when it comes to drawing and creating. You know, even for this point right here, what if I want to manipulate these Bezier points or Bezier? I can manipulate them individually if I just grab it right here. Guess what? I could double click on it and I can make it a sharp point and bring that down. So I can kind of manipulate this any way I want. In this case, all I'm going to do is just double click right here and drag this down. And now we have our like map icon. Cool. All right. From there, I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate this. How do you duplicate? Command D, right? And move that over just like in Illustrator. You can also do a Shift and then also hold down the Alt key and that will duplicate it. So again, just like Illustrator, because I think I'm going to do something kind of fun with this. Let's see, because I'm going to create something, a logo that is like what we see right in here. So this is my ultimate outcome, just so you can catch a vision for what we're making. Thank you, Axel. All right, so let's do that. I have two shapes right here. I'm going to maybe make this one a different color. I'm going to go with pink because I'm like really digging a hot pink right now. So, Thomas, what are you saying about holding down the Alt key, Option key? Hold down the Alt key or Option key. So I can click and drag, and then, yeah, you can hold down, it's just like Illustrator to where I can hold down the Alt or Option key, but I've also noticed I have been able to just click on it once. That's what happened earlier, and I was able to modify it. But Alt or Option will allow you to adjust it. Okay, so here's my two images. I'm going to add a third. I'm going to draw an ellipse, otherwise known as a circle. I don't know why. Ellipse just kind of bothers me. Ellipse. It's not lips. It's a circle. Okay, so Thomas, Axel, everyone, check this out. So when it comes to Boolean operations, which means to add or remove, you know, combine shapes together, maybe do some sort of intersect, right? An intersect option. This is what I want to do. I want to punch a hole in this, right? So that's what I want to do, sort of subtract this shape from this shape. Selecting them both, we can subtract using the Properties panel. I'm off center. Guess what? If you just double click on that, you have access to all of those lines, all of those points and paths. So it doesn't eliminate data when you use any Boolean operation, which I really like. So I could kind of center that just like that, make that nice and neat. Maybe even make it a little smaller. Again, just all I have to do is double click and then shrink it down. All right, cool. For these two, I'm thinking what would be really clever, and I thought this was really clever when I made it, and I'm surprised this is not. This is probably a logo that somebody has made at some point, but I wanted to do kind of like a little heart. It's kind of a heart map, if you will, like a map pin that's like also a heart. And by the way, I'm like adjusting this like that. I can adjust sort of and kind of eye it, or I can actually use the properties in the Properties panel. But this is the clever little logo. I thought I was like so clever when I came up with this. I'm like, I'm a genius. And I know it exists somewhere, but I didn't take it from any place, just for what it's worth. All right. I'm going to make this a little larger again. Something like that. There's my logo. If I take a look right over here, let's center this too. And let's look at the Layers panel. It's currently kind of behind my head, right back here. Okay, so right on the left side, lower left-hand corner. Opening up the Layers panel, I can see the different paths that I made. So here's my subtraction and then my path, so I can see what I've created, right? This is really just going to be my logo. So this is what I can do, is I can just right-click and then group them, or Command G, as you probably know from other apps. And then it makes a little layer group right over here. Okay, so when it comes to organizing content, I want to organize things, of course, on my artboard, but also just kind of be mindful of where things are stacked in my layer group off to the side for all my layers. Okay, so that's typically what I'll do. I can actually rename this, and I can call this logo just like that. Double click, rename. Oh, you're so nice, Narendra. I can't even say your name right. It's kind of hard to say, and I feel terrible. But what are we going to call this app? What did I call it before? Shall we take a look? Again, this is what we're going to make. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm kind of thinking this kind of cityscape right here. I'm thinking a couple buttons, right, is the idea. We could do all that. I'm going to get moving, so I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit. Let me know if it's your first time using or if you're new to Adobe XD. I want to commend you and thank you for, you know, just trying something new. As you get older, you have less of a tendency to try new things. In fact, I think beyond 30 years old, marketers don't even market to you because you are already set in your ways. So I appreciate anyone trying something new. I'm clicking through these different fonts. I've just added this text. Okay. What I like about XD is I can just grab this control point right down here. See that little dot? I just like zoop, zoop. Make it larger or smaller just visually, which is awfully nice. I can also come over here and for any field, any sort of any numeric field like the point size, I can just use the up arrows, down arrows, or I can hold shift key and go up and down by 10. Okay, so shortcuts for those of you who are, because I see some familiar names basically. Okay, there we go. This is what we will call our app. We can make some additional buttons, and this is typically how I'll work. All right. Notice how I'm picking this a different color. Check this out. Like I'm like, oh, I kind of need that pink. What about that pink? What about it? Well, check this out. I love this. You ready for this? As you start to get into, oh, cool. Old human, new to XD. Amen. I hear you, Axel. You were like speaking the same language. But as you start to like reuse elements, you're going to want to use the asset panel. So right over here, that little thing behind my head that kind of has two cells that are kind of splitting. Well, that's what I want to use right now. Clicking right there, that just turns and opens up the assets panel, okay? So what you could do is you could select everything. I don't have a lot of colors, but if this happens to be a different color, maybe this is just kind of like a medium gray or something like that because it's kind of large, but I can select everything and then go over here to my assets panel under colors and I can click this plus button and it'll say, hey, all the unique colors that you've added is now going to be right over here. So that's what I'm going to do. Select everything. Add it, and there's my 3 colors. So these are my 3 baseline colors. As I draw that box, I can then select that color just like that. As for the border, guess what? Actually, I don't think, yeah, it's just going to do that color. But that's what I've done. Check this out. Going beyond that, by the way, Axel and Caroline and everyone. Thank you. Caroline's never used it. You'll love this, by the way. Old human, new to XD. I love it. If I decide this pink isn't working, and this works on a global basis, I can select edit, right click edit, selecting that, and then I can change that to more of a red, and it's going to change it everywhere. Not that advanced of an example, because I only have 2 places, but this is getting started, so I'm keeping it simple. That's fantastic. Let's round the corners, right? What do we have right here? Oh, these little nodes. What is everyone's opinion on rounded corners? That's my opinion, is keep it super shallow. I'm always kind of curious what people think, but I just take the edge off is what I like to do. All right, check this out. You ready for this? Is everybody paying attention? Because this is the coolest, by the way. Right over here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to maybe add some more text to explore. Right, I get it. It's going to default to that last font that I've used, which is perfect, but I'm going to size this down, put this right in here, right? I'm going to take these two elements, right? Make sure all this is lined up all fancy like. Taking these two elements, and I'm going to add this as a symbol. Okay, just by clicking the plus button right there, it made it a symbol. Now check this out. I can bring this out right down here, drop it in, and guess what? It could still be a symbol, like it is an instance of a symbol, so they're linked back to this one, but I can actually jump in and change the text. So I can say, hey, you know what? Make this log in, right? And by the way, they're still linked back to the same one. Like, look, if I decide I want to put a little circle right in here or something, or a little heart or something, look, it's going to add it in both places. I think that's brilliant, and I love it, and I'll move on. All right, because I'm 20 minutes in. This is our first screen. What else do we want to do? Lots of things. Lots of things. Like bring in assets from other places. So Axel, heart, find, travel. Heart, love it. So look at this. We wanted to bring something in from Illustrator. Somebody was asking. You guessed it. I'm going to kind of turn on my layers, go into this, pasting this in. There you go. There's your little cityscape down at the bottom. Okay. What else do you want to do? Maybe bring in assets from someplace else. Let's take this night scene. This might be kind of cool. I don't know. Tokyo Tower. Ooh, this one's gorgeous. Maybe we'll drop that in. Right? We can just drag and drop assets. That's really straightforward. Like, we get it. Typically what I will do is I'll put things within a shape. So I'll draw a shape and then I'll drop it in there, right? So that gives me like a little bit more control because I know I want it to be just like this size, just a little easier to work with. Drag that down to the bottom and then move this content up as we start to create this app. All right, so let's move on because I wanted to show you the coolest feature and probably the newest feature that everybody's been waiting for after I save my file to my desktop. Check this out. Do you know about this? And I'll use just like, it could be any asset. So if you have assets in Photoshop, all right, you have something like this, PSD, anything that you already have created, or maybe you're just more comfortable with using Photoshop for screen design, that's fine. That's what I have going on here. In fact, this is pretty complex. It has multiple artboards, right? We can see them all right here. And multiple things going on. What do you have to do to bring it into XD? Nothing. There's no save to XD. Thank you. Thank you, Adobe. Thank you for not having a save to XD. You don't need that. It's just save a PSD. Take any PSD that you have, and then all you need to do in XD is just say file, and there's no open PSD either, just open. So it's almost a missed feature if you're not aware of it, that we've added opening PSDs in Adobe XD. Not only that, but sketch files. Sketch files come in very clean. If you have symbols in Sketch, then the symbols are going to come across in XD as well. So that's all you have to do. It's no magic, nothing, right? You don't hardly even need me for this portion, right? Because what am I going to do? Just grab this PSD, click open, and it'll open. And you'll get the idea. Oh, Sadhya, thank you so much. XD is too good. We really just appreciate. I act like I created it. Like, you're welcome. No, I did not make it. I just take credit when you like it. But if you didn't like it, I had nothing to do with it. Look at this. Look at, ready for this? It's like Photoshop, XD, Photoshop, XD. Same thing, right? Let's dive into this first one. Let's take a look at this text. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I had you as text. Yeah, I can change you. Fancy text, right? What about this background image? Look at this. Oh, guess what? This is all blurred out, right? Look, here, I haven't quite gotten into effects, but this has an object blur associated with it, which is the same thing as a Gaussian blur. So I can take that down, see? Sharp, blurry, right? So effects come in. Just be mindful that if it's supported in XD, then it will come in. Otherwise, it won't. So if you're doing some inner shadow or some gradient inner shadow or 3 drop shadows, only 1 drop shadow should come in, but so that's kind of the deal. PSD is now supported in Adobe XD. Bring that content in, and then you can start using some of these graphics any way you want, either in this project or in the other project, right? So I can take this and do what I want to. But I'm still want to kind of move, sort of starting from scratch, since this is getting started. I want to keep this very simple. I'm going to dive into, actually I'm going to switch back to my little fancy little overview schedule, if you will. We created edited shapes, we added text, we did vector and bitmap graphics, we brought in PSDs, we know about sketch files. Now I want to dive into the second part, which is like designing screens, sort of adding multiple artboards, creating and reusing assets. We already did that with the assets panel, so that's good. But I want to dive into repeat grid is the main thing. So moving on. Yes, thank you. Naranda it gets all the layers and everything, and it's fantastic. I'm just like, it makes your life easy. I like things that just like, don't even give me a menu. Don't show off with your, we could have brought in, there could have been open PSD. We could have added that. That would have been an advertisement. It would have been basically telling the world that, that we support PSDs, but it's just totally unnecessary, right? It just opens. All right, getting into multiple artboards. Typically you'll maybe take the first one, and what do you do to duplicate? Command D duplicates that particular artboard, and we can make a menu right? Artboards are the same thing as any other shape. That's all they are. It's like really simple. Maybe I don't want to get rid of everything, but let's just do this. I want to kind of clean this up a little bit. I'm not sure. I definitely want this right over here. That's for sure. I have a little heart. I love my little logo. All right, so that looks pretty good. Let's dive into this a little more, because what do I want to do? I want to create a menu selection, so an option right here, and you know, this box will be, you know, any color, but it's not going to have a border. It will have some text, and it'll say Tokyo or something. So I'm creating a menu item, multiple menu items. I can select both of these, and what do? You sort of duplicate, you duplicate it. This is your life, is just like doing this and then changing the content, right? That's what you typically end up doing, right? Change. Anyways, I'm already screwing it up, right? I didn't want to do that. I want to make this easier. This is why I should do repeat grid. Selecting these two items right up here, upper right in the properties panel, repeat grid. What does it do? It gives me these little control points. This means that I can expand it down, and I can actually expand it to the right. I'm going to expand it down. There we go. You do have to add the sound effects yourselves. Like that. There we go. Have all those do those things. Yeah, do that. So this is nice. I can come in here and say, hey, you know what? Let's make this, you know, I don't know. Let's do Europe. You know. South America. So the data can be separate, but check this out. The style will be the same. So as I shrink this down, and if I decide to move it over here, the style is going to be linked together, right? Now let's check out the imagery. What are we going to do for imagery? Wait for it. Going into my handy little assets folder. Grabbing an image, dropping it in, and it repeats all the way down. And I'm like, that's not even Tokyo. That's like Cuba, right? What you can do from here is select all of those images, as many as you want, drop them in, and they'll propagate on down, all the way down. Guess what? You can grab text. I'm grabbing a text file that has, oh, guess what? Cuba, Aspen, all that fun stuff. Of course, Aspen's in there since it's Colorado City. Dropping that right there, and then it changes all the way down. And what does this allow you to do? This allows you to, like, see if some of this text is going to show up. It's not going to show up on that image. So typically you would, once you get the real data in there, you realize that there are all these issues with it. Like, oh, some things are brighter, some things are darker. The developer would come back to you, hey, we got to fix this, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, whatever, I moved on to another project. Right now, you can fix it right now, and that's all I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, select that image, and maybe drop down the transparency, for instance. I could even select this text, ready for selecting this text, and give it a shadow to make it stand out a little more. So that's all I'm doing. I'm not going to give it any offset, but it does going to have a blur, and I'm going to make sure the shadow is a blue, because that's how you know you're a designer, is you don't use true like black for drop shadows. All right, so moving on. I've talked about repeat grid. Let's start, let's get another one going here. Duplicating that menu. Let's make the Cuba page. This is what I'll do, because I know I need to make the Cuba page. I'll shrink this up, and then I will ungroup this grid. Boom. Oh, thank you. You gave me the image that I wanted, and I still have that text right there. Okay. So from there, I can go ahead and add some more text. Oh yeah, lorem ipsum. Just like that. Here's another thing I'll do. Mitch, I know Mitch knows this, by the way. There's probably a couple of you that do know this. I talked about background blur earlier. Well, that's what I can do here, is adding in, you know, a rectangle. And then check this out. I'm just going to turn on background blur for this rectangle. And then I can just kind of move it back there. And it doesn't matter what is back there. It's going to blur it out. And kind of like this look is what I'm going for. You're thinking, oh no, it's not dark enough. Guess what? Right over here, we can make it darker, right? So making it darker, but having it spill into this area right here. Even for this text, I did this earlier and I loved this. Let's go ahead and give this a background blur. So the word Cuba now has that background blur, and then I can just make it lighter or darker or whatever. I just really like the look of that. And I really got to stop because, yeah, it's too fun. All right, cool. Yeah, thank you. Oh, if I taught Thomas something, then I'm already, you know, impressed with myself. So thank you, Thomas. Okay, you ready for this, Thomas? Thomas knows about this, but this is another thing. Okay, so, and I'll answer this question. Del Montes asks about the Ipsum text. Is actually, I use text expander. That's what I use. I use text expander, and this just allows me to do a shortcut of lorem, and I do 2 M's at the end, and then I'll automatically paste it in. Yeah. I did have hipster Ipsum in here somewhere, but that's all I used. So that's unrelated to XD, but still a good tip. Okay, moving on from here, because what are you gonna want to do? You're gonna probably not have to. You don't want to create everything. Wait, Axel, there's a new add-in for Ipsum in XD. Are you telling me something that I don't know? In that case, you get a prize, if there is one. Okay, but I will tell you about add-ins. You did say it was an add-in. Let's go into Get UI Kits. Right in here, there's the iOS version, so you can go into iOS and grab that top bar or that, you know, whatever. And that actually popped up on my other screen, but basically you could download that XD file, which happens to be half the size of Sketch, way smaller than Photoshop. But you could get that, and you can check that out. I wanted to kind of go to the UI kits. Let's do like wireframes, and then there's even more UI kits. So we keep on adding. It's like too many resources out there, and I've already downloaded them, so you don't have to worry about that. Here's all the UI kits that are super fancy. I'm just going to go into the Wires Mobile. This is the traditional one, because what I need is a map, and I don't have to recreate the map. Okay, thank you, Axel. Not an XD. Whew. I was like, whoa. I was like, that's happened before. I'm sure, you know, I wouldn't have put it past me to, you know. Like, there's some tips in Photoshop that I need to show ya. All right, so this is what I can do, is I can take from the Wires kit, I can go to the sort of maps section and use one of these, because I'm thinking about, you know, this is kind of what I want. I want this sort of location and maps. Okay, by the way, ready? I mentioned the Assets panel. Guess what? These are global colors. So even if you're opening up a UI kit, don't worry about changing all the colors to your liking. You can just go to Edit for that global color and then change it to pink as I'm doing right now, okay? So really powerful, and that's what I have actually. I'm working with a pink, so why don't I change it to pink, right? That's pretty cool. Messaging, all sorts of things. Let's grab this, copying that. Let's go over here, let's paste it in. Done and done, okay? All right, cool. Yeah, it's in InDesign. Thank you, Axel. Thank you very much. It's good. Yeah, look at all the screen choices. Exactly right. Thank you, Axel. Thank you for pointing that out, because there are so many screen choices. And if nothing meets your needs in the wire kit, there's others. Because when I went to the More UI kits, there's things for smartwatches and dashboards. So all these little dashboard widgets, transportation, ride sharing, all that stuff. So again, you can find it all through this handy little menu. You don't have to worry about, and like, what URL was that? It's all right in here. Wireframes, More UI kits. All right, so going back to my outline for the morning, making sure we're clicking through reusing assets. You're using repeat grid. We've added effects. Let's get into prototyping and sharing. This is super fun, okay? So I'm going to switch to, I'll save this, sure. But I'm actually going to just kind of open up one that just has more screens. So imagine I did this about, 20 more times. Actually, probably more like 9 more times. And I'll be happy to share this with you, but here are all these resource files that I can give you. But I'm going to open up just a file that has more screens, right? So same process. Here's something different that I did, by the way. Check this out. Okay? Because check this out, I can click on the splash screen. I can click this preview button right up here. Oh, shoot, sorry. I never switched. I hate it when I do that. Right over here, I'm going to click this play button. And I can see how this screen looks. That looks fine. But then what about this second screen right here? And let me make sure. Oh, good Lord. Everything would be. Let me open up this file. Prototyping begin. I want to show you how you can make a long scrolling list is what I want to show you. So right here, clicking menu, right? There's the viewport height, and then there's the height of the actual artboard. The viewport height we want to stay the same at 667, but the height of the artboard we want to make larger. The cool thing is I can just click menu and then drag this down just like that. And then I can expand out any content that I want. And now all of a sudden, notice how, yeah, it's repeating. But look, this gives me this fold line. It says, hey, this is where the fold is, essentially, which is actually at 667. So now when I preview this and go to that screen, I can scroll down it. And that's how that works. All right, moving on. Let's move on. All right, let's do that. I just got a wow from Axel, so we are moving on. He's into it. Check this out. Take it to the next level. We have all of our screens laid out. I've copied these from UI kits. Now I'm going to go to prototype. Click. And now I can start to link this stuff together. Let me actually... Ugh, I hate this. Sorry. I apologize. Some of these were already linked up, so I need to start from scratch. There we are. All right, check this out. I'm in the prototype section, so design, prototype. Over here, selecting this explore button, and anything, if you could select it, you can link it to another screen, because in the prototype section, if you select something, you're going to get this little arrow, right? This is going to be your hotspot for linking it to another screen. So clicking, dragging to that next screen, boom. Oh, give me a little pop-up. Says, hey, what do you want to do here? Looks like you're going to target the menu because you just pointed to it. And you're going to dissolve it or do another fancy transition, right? I like push left a lot. So Let's just try it. Let's try push left at this interval, easing out. What about going back? Let's select this icon right here, our logo, pointing it back, and it will default to your last transition. In this case, I want to do a push right, just like that. All right, with that done, play, click, click, and you'll do this for about 20 minutes, kind of mesmerized, just kind of slowly hypnotizing yourself. All right, let's go a lot faster now. All right, going in here, Cuba, linking Cuba to that screen. It's gonna push left, right? And then even this Aspen, I would do some of these screens all at once because it's gonna default to push left. So I'm going to do everything linking out that I want to push left. I'll just do that first. Tangier, Venice, such great places. Japan, of course. That's pretty good. You can link up content. You can do a Command A will select everything, and you'll be able to see how everything's linked together. Oh, I'm missing the Cuba. Interesting. Let's duplicate this. Here's the Cuba map. In this case, I want to link this little map icon to the map right down here. So pointing to it, in this case, I'll have it slide up. Okay. And check this out. This is what I love. Taking this button, instead of pointing it back, I can get to this map from multiple locations. So what I can do is if I just click on this tag or flyout menu, this was called, gosh, I don't remember what we're calling it now, to be honest with you. Anyway, but basically we can go to previous artboard. So it doesn't matter how you got here. And just go back. And you know what? Not only go back to where you came from, which sounds rude, but also reverse the transition. So it's a dynamic sort of button now, right? So previous artboard, done. So that's what I'll do for all of these. I'll just do previous artboards and just make sure this one does the slide up. Are you not impressed? Let's see. I won't be impressed unless it all works. Checking it out. Go to explore. Good. Let's even go full screen with this. Go into Cuba. Yep. Click the map. Yep. Ah, I gotta swap that out. Clicking back. Clicking back. Clicking back. Everything works. Fantastic. 43 minutes in, we have a working prototype that we can then publish out to the world, which is great. Closing some of these files. I'm going to open up just one where everything is linked. So, yes, everything is embedded in XD. What's happening here, by the way? Oh, by the way, I don't have it plugged in, but look, I'm just previewing on my desktop, and I can come in and make changes to these files. So I could literally have this on another screen and still make changes to it. Because watch when I move these buildings, see how it's moving in the prototype. And not only that, if I connected my phone, I can actually preview it directly on my phone, which is what this icon right over here is. Previewing it directly on my phone, and I'll just go ahead and work that way. So I know people just like keep their phone connected and always preview and check it out on their phone. So that's typically what they do. Okay, so we've previewed on our desktop. We think it's looking fantastic. Now let's publish a prototype right up here, upper right-hand corner. Publish prototype. We'll call this find. I should have called it find with a Y because I think that would just be like so much more cool. Find. That's probably a thing. So cheers to that. Here's to Mondays. Happy April 2nd, everyone. Hopefully you had a wonderful weekend. You got rested. You had some fun. Got to visit family, and I don't know what you did. Hung out with friends. Got some good sleep. That's how you know you get older. Narendra, that's how you know you get older. It's like you look forward to when you don't have weekend plans. That's a good weekend. All right, so I've allowed for comments. I'm going to show hotspot hints. And that's all I need to do. Notice how it says update link. So I can always go back and update this because chances are I did a misspelling. And even when I do that, I could update it real fast. So Satya, you're right. I don't think the records option in Windows. I got to find out why that situation is. But thank you for pointing that out. That is a situation. And we'll have to... I gotta follow up. I'm going to be in San Francisco this week. And be happy to... I got to find out the scoop on what the deal is with that. All right, so here we are. Here's the URL, by the way. Right up here. Again, it's like a, this is not a searchable link, that whole thing, but check this out. Everything's going to work as expected. I can come in here, click on this. And not only that, I have the ability to comment. So you could send this to your design manager or the client, and they can add a comment. They can say, this is great. Great. Can you move this up some? I'm like, move what up? What are you talking about? Well, right down here, it says, hey, you know what? You can pin that to the artboard. So that's where I'm going to pin it. I'm going to pin it right over here to this arrow because they think it's a little too low is essentially what's happening. So I've pinned it right there, and I can make that change. Okay, so that travels with the document. I can go through and see all this other stuff. They can add more comments, you know, make darker, question mark, because they don't know. They're like, maybe, right? And now I know exactly what they're talking about. So that's what happens. All this stays with it. Not only that, you could be like, hey, reply, no. Just kidding. I'll fix it. Don't ever do that. Don't be like, no, just kidding. Don't even do that. Don't even kid. I don't know. All right, so right up here, can make those changes as we expected, moving that arrow up, maybe making this darker like the client wanted so they can see it. It's easier to read. Right up here, we could then just update that link. Done and done. Yeah, client management's super easy. I'm going to take it to the next level because essentially we'll do these round of changes. Okay, that's what will happen. Everything is being tracked. All those comments are being tracked. All right. Let's just open that up again because I think I closed it. But then the next step is sort of like delivering this to your developer. Okay, so see right over here. Can you move this up? I can reply and say done. Ooh, I need to sign in. Is everybody ready to? Yeah, you can see that. Go ahead. I'll even type in my password. Kind of logged me out, but the comments are there. The reason I had to log in is because I want my name associated with these comments, but I could log in as a guest as well. But I can resolve this. Done. Right? That's done. Right? And we can select right up here. You seeing that? Make this a little larger. Can I? There we go. Right there, and then we could just hit resolve, and it's a resolved comment. So it tucks it away, but it's still there. Cool. It's that easy. I don't know. Life doesn't have to be that hard, right? Fixed. You hope not. It's hard enough as it is. Resolved. Done. Okay, so we've worked on this app with the client, with the art director. We've gotten everybody's approvals. We can now go into the development phase because all we're doing is we're creating a prototype. So we've worked out all the issues with it. So now at this point, I can say, hey, you know what? Let's export out. I can select everything, actually. Let's select everything. And export out everything that's selected, or all the artboards. And what this is going to give you is I can say, hey, you know what? This is made for iOS, designed at 1x, so it's going to export out these high DPI resolution images as well. So that's essentially what's going to happen. So go to export, export, goes through, exports out all those different sizes. Oh yeah, thank you so much. And there's also the embed. So you can also embed that too into a site. Like you have your website, you want to show this off to your client, but you don't want them to have to go to like some Adobe URL. You can embed that on a blank page on your site and you're good to go there. So, okay, so I've exported out everything. Go in here to the exported assets, and here you get a plethora of all those images as expected. Maybe what you want to do at this point is create different sizes, maybe export some and not others, like right in here. Like maybe I want to export, or I want to group these two together. Let's group them, right? Let's call this logo, right? Like that. But we can take this. Again, I want to name things correctly. Explore button, right? And as I do that right over here, you can see, oh, guess what? This little export. This is pretty new as well, by the way. So I can say, hey, mark for batch export. I've marked it for batch export. So as I name them, I can start to tag them, everything that I'm going to export out. And then what I can do is just go to File, Export. And do my batch export. So that's how you can control what gets exported and what doesn't. Axel, I want to have you around more often because you're just like full of positivity. I love it. I'm going to show you one more thing. This last thing. Awesome. Now, as we go down to like the last couple minutes, publish design specs right up here, because the developer is going to be like, thank you so much for all those graphics. They are beautiful. Where do they go? I see the prototype. You sent me the prototype. But where's the exact placement of all those buttons and all those graphics? Oh, look, I love how even before it's done publishing, you can open the link. I'm like, how's that even possible? But you're not done, are you sure? Look at this. Boom. As I roll over these, I could see everything that's connected. So this is what your developer would see. Roll over each one. See what's connected. Maybe go to the splash screen. And now they can see, oh, here's that text. This is the position for it. This is the font. And this is the text specifically. And that's what Design Specs does. Ah, thank you. Why does mine say 4%? I swear you're a good man. Thank you so much. I have a power strip and not all of the, yeah. Thank you for pointing that out. Dusan saved my life. Thank you, my friend. I'm at 4% battery. But that's all I need. Really? What? That's all I need. I need an hour. I need some free time, some creativity, a bright idea, and you can create your own prototype. So I encourage you to do that. Just download Adobe XD, get started. Why did we do this? Because, quite frankly, on behance.net/live tomorrow, we have, let's mute this, okay. We have this going on, very meta right now, but basically on this site, hopefully you're on this site and not on YouTube right now, but this is the schedule of amazing people. Basically, Martha is going to be joining us, Christine Lee, Rovain Durso, and Selena Wu. So they work for various agencies, they're professionals in their own right, and I'm really looking forward to them and what they have prepared for you. So I'm really hoping that you can join us. That would be really fantastic. And yes, so thank you, Diego. And again, if you want a better look at the schedule, this kind of makes it a little easier to read. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, starting at 9 a.m., go until 5 p.m. Pacific time. So regardless of where you are in the world, we just hope you find yourself with us. Tim will be there, my friend. Yes, Tim? Thanks. So thank you, Thomas. You're a good man. And I appreciate everybody joining me, kind of winding down to the last 5 minutes. If you have any other questions, let me know. Again, you can always hit me up on the Instagrams and the social medias of the world. This is Getting Started in Adobe XD with Paul Trani. So thank you so much for joining me, clicking over to the outline screen, and this is everything that you've learned if you followed along, Caroline and Mitch and everyone. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Everybody doing well? Yeah? Drink lots of water. I don't know. Floss. Call your mom. That's the last advice I have for you. But thank you everyone for watching. By the way, I can't say if there is or isn't going to be, but there very well could be an update to Adobe XD tomorrow. So it usually doesn't hit. If you're kind of noticing a little bit of a pattern, it tends to hit once a month, like on a Monday night. So we're going to have some new things kind of coming your way, and we hope you like them. So Rick, thank you, sir. A bow. And join me tomorrow because I'm going to be with the lovely Martha Bergman. So join us tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Check out Adobe Live. By the way, my friend's working on an extension for Chrome that will alert you when we do go live. We might have somebody live on Creative Cloud YouTube page. That's where this is going to be able to be watched later. And then I'll also be on the Illustrator page later today. Facebook page. So thank you, everyone. Take care, Caroline. Have a beautiful day, everyone. And thank you so much for all that you do. And Paul, signing off. Thanks so much, everyone.